Hi, everybody. Welcome to another CyberTalks LinkedIn Live. Joining me this afternoon will be Lisa Ventura. Lisa is an award-winning cybersecurity awareness consultant, the CEO and founder of the UK Cybersecurity Association. Lisa is also soon to be an author, is a blogger, a speaker, and is also neurodivergent. It's a real honor to have her on our show today. So looking forward to that in a couple of minutes. I just actually wanted to start by saying, as lockdown is eased in the UK over the weekend, I hope everyone is going to keep safe. This crisis is far from over. We still don't have a cure. We have a responsibility to ourselves and to others to ensure we're all keeping safe and doing the right thing. So take care if you're out and about and plan to go and have a beer or whatever it may be. It's still important that we all maintain our physical health and, of course, our mental health. So our topic of discussion today is around what COVID-19 has done for cybersecurity and whether that impact has been a negative one. And sort of digesting some of that and really understanding where that impact is, whether that's in the corporate world or within small businesses. The NCSC, if you follow some of their updates, issued some interesting statistics over the last few weeks about the number of attacks on UK businesses as a whole, which has seen a significant increase. And guidance to some of the small businesses and how to deal with that. But actually, Lisa and I are going to explore some of these issues over the next 30 to 40 minutes. So without further ado, and after this very brief message from our sponsor, we'll get straight into it. Thank you. Hi, Lisa. Good afternoon.
Hello. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to us at CyberTalks. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Brilliant stuff. So, before we get into talking about COVID-19 and sort of the impact that has on cyber, I think it'd be really nice to let our viewers know a little bit about you and your journey. I don't know if you could just share some of that with us. I think that would be great.
Sure. I've been in the cybersecurity industry since around 2009. However, I came into that from a very different arena. I was in the entertainment industry for 7+ years, and I worked with Chris Tarrant of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire fame. And boy, have I got some stories on that front, but that's for another time. I then joined my ex-husband's company, Titanium Limited, until we divorced and separated in 2012. And I knew at that point that I wanted to stay within the cybersecurity industry. So I worked at BT on their Assure Cyber product. I then moved into doing a lot of work around cybersecurity awareness. So working with corporate companies to teach their employees to be more cyber aware. I did do a lot of things with phishing email simulations, cyber escape rooms, all sorts of different things to help them understand the growing cyber threat and what things to look out for. And in 2018, I founded the UK Cybersecurity Association, which is a membership organisation for individuals and companies that work within the cybersecurity industry. However, recently we've found that we've had a lot of requests for membership or requests to find out if small businesses and SMEs can join, because they're looking to access as much information to network with other individuals in the cybersecurity industry to help them stay safe online. And I really believe that is in the light of COVID and the big move to getting everybody working from home quickly.
I mean, that's an amazing story, and would love to spend more time nearly listening to some of those stories. I think it's really cool. I mean, it's also amazing that sort of leap from television into cybersecurity is astonishing. So, I mean, one of the things you said there about people getting in touch with you about sort of the impact of COVID. I mean, of course, with the understanding a huge loss of life as a result of this pandemic, and I think it's changed the way that a lot of people are viewing the world, personally and professionally. And I think you touched on a really important point there with regards to sort of change in mindset with people working from home, and the whole digital transformation of organizations, if they're very face to face. What's the most common request you're sort of getting at the moment through through your organization? What's the top 3 things that people are constantly asking you?
With the huge range of different phishing email attempts that are going on at the moment, I'm getting a lot of requests for advice for how to spot those and how to get those stopped at source. There's certainly been a huge rise in the amount of these that are also COVID related as well. A lot of phishing email simulations that I've seen are around ordering tests. You obviously go onto a site that that isn't valid. You could get your data compromised and so on. So that's certainly one key area, but also just general things that small businesses can do to get their security up to speed and to get their employees working from home safely and securely. And there's quite a few different things that they can do. And some of the things that we suggest, and some of them might sound just so obvious to us. If we're in the industry, we know it like the back of our hand. It's amazing how many small businesses and SMEs don't stop to consider some of these things, even down to using strong passwords, setting up 2-factor authentication, the use of a VPN, all really, commonplace to us, but just not so commonplace for a small business that perhaps necessarily wouldn't have thought about it in any great, depth while they're in the office. All of a sudden, they've had to get their employees working safely from home, and they need to do that, quickly and as securely as possible.
So there is a general sort of systemic problem around education, training, and awareness for as much as the government aims to push out effective guidance. I suppose the challenge for small businesses is, where do they go for information? And how do they know what the right providers are, what the right solutions are? Because actually a lot of the stuff that we publish can be quite technical. It can be quite driven by a language that cybersecurity people are, this lexicon of terms that we've created for ourselves. So how do you, and I suppose that drives a level of fear if they don't truly understand what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was just saying, how do you get them to a place where they feel they've digested and then they can take appropriate action to it?
So that's exactly what the UK Cybersecurity Association attempts to do. And a lot of the information that's coming out from the National Cybersecurity Centre as well is just absolutely superb, because it's written in language that's sort of easy to follow. It doesn't have a lot of technical jargon or acronyms or so on, which we find tends to confuse a lot of people in the small business world. So that education is absolutely key. So we have put together a whole series of different guides, taking a lot of the guidance that the NCSC has provided, and we talk to small businesses and SMEs in language that they understand. We take the jargon away, we take the acronyms away. I've been in situations where I've been evaluating various courses, and I remember two technical guys were running it, absolutely brilliant at what they do, but they were talking in DDoS and so on, and I could just see the audience were glazing over, and it was thinking, what on earth's that? We all know it's a denial of service attack, but they just didn't have a clue. And I spent the breaks, breaking it down, explaining it to them. And actually, that was where my idea for the association came in, because I thought there is a need to get this information out there that's really, easy to understand and succinct to understand. And like you say, going through the myriad of providers, looking at the right ones for their organizations and so on, all really important. So we have a list of, top 10 antivirus, top 10, VPNs, top 10 firewalls, things like that, really broken down into easy to understand language that we get out to small business and SMEs to help them make informed decisions about what they need for their organization.
And I suppose that the importance of that, being informed and having access to, accurate information, and then, being able to distill, should I choose product X over product Y, and is it going to serve my purpose? Sometimes, they can get lost in all of that information. So actually, what you're doing is really good. I think the easier it becomes for small businesses to be able to digest that stuff, the better off we're going to be as a country in protecting our small businesses, right?
Absolutely. And I didn't myself come from that wholly technical background, so I'm able to take that technical information and digest it for them into language that they can follow and understand. And I think that's the difference, getting it out there that they can easily just digest, make the informed decisions for their business and their organization, is key.
As part of your sort of awareness campaign within the work that you're doing, do you come across the challenge around behavior? Because they might be saying the right thing, but behaving in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's always going to be a particular challenge, particularly within certain sectors. I did some work in the legal sector last year around a cybersecurity awareness program for exactly that. And, getting, fee earners and lawyers and so on to change their behavior and do something different, use two-factor authentication, use strong passwords, etc. That can be quite challenging because they're so busy. Every second is money to them. So you really have to get into their mindset to work out, how to best present that information to them of how important it is. And actually, I found that they can be one of the worst sectors when it comes to cybersecurity. For that reason, they're so busy. It's so easy for them to just click on something they shouldn't very quickly, or just something that they can just do just with the flick of their fingers, and I'm infected, I've got malware or ransomware or something like that. So it's really important.
Yeah, so one of the challenges I hear quite a lot from small businesses, especially if you're talking about 100 to 250 sort of user base, they go out, they buy education, training, and awareness material, they buy tools and processes, and they hire whether that's through managed service or services, some security support. However, they can't change the culture of the way that people behave, and so as much education you give them about don't click this and don't click that and don't push this button, there's still a high percentage of individuals that do that. How do you think we as an industry then could start changing that behavior? Because I think it has to come from the way that we're telling a story, right? Yeah. Or do you sort of have a different view on how we can tackle that?
Yeah. So I got involved in doing some cyber escape rooms earlier this year, and getting people going through that whole process and unlocking a series of clues and puzzles to get to an end result. That worked really, really well. So the more interactive the training, I find the better. And that's obviously quite difficult to achieve on a virtual basis. So much better when you're in a group of people and you can bounce ideas off each other or discuss the different clues and the different puzzles and so on to solve them. And getting that across now virtually in a post-COVID world is quite difficult. But I think there's still a lot of work to be done to get those key messages out there to small businesses, that you are vulnerable. You're just as vulnerable, to attack as, the big corporates that have been hit, such as EasyJet and so on. And it's something you really do have to take seriously, as much as anything else within your organization, and especially when it comes to protecting your data, which, as the saying goes, data is the new oil, and it's one of the most precious commodities that many organizations have now.
Well, information's always been power, right? So the more you have of it, I think one of the interesting things here as well around small businesses, so putting in the context of COVID-19, apart from sort of what we've seen in recent sort of months around increased attacks, how do you think it's also affected the mindset of people? So, two things you mentioned at the beginning, working from home, that could be a massive change, mentally for people, but also dramatically changed in the way that they have to operate. So how, and we have to educate people in a very small amount of time so they don't make mistakes. So is that a challenge that you've seen, across your sort of, your membership base at the moment?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's getting better, but there was just such a big move to get everybody online from home and working from home as quickly as possible. And now that's been done, I think there's now a period of consolidation where it's, okay, this isn't just a short-term thing. This is going to be here for the long haul. The COVID threat isn't going to go away anytime soon. So I think a lot of people are now just getting into the grip of, okay, I'm going to be based at home for a while, and what things can I do to help secure my work and what I do, and so on.
I think one of the other challenges is that some people may only have one device at home that's shared with other family members, and so it increases your sort of risk exposure. So do you guys also provide guidance on really simplistic hygienic type things that individuals can take away to ensure if they're in that shared environment they've got the right kind of guidance and protections in place?
Absolutely, and we have a whole cyber hygiene program. So all those things like using your antivirus software, making sure that it's up to date, looking at your home router and the security settings of that, making sure that you update your system regularly, backing up your data, watching out for those phishing emails and sites, any work from home scams, and also as well, not just online, but also the phone. There's been a huge rise of the amount of scam phone calls, text messages, and so on, which could also leave your devices vulnerable. Even locking your device, even as simple as locking your device when you walk away from it. If, as you say, it's a shared device or there's other family members, just that extra level of security. They might walk past and think, oh, I'll just quickly go onto this website, and they might inadvertently click something, and then you're vulnerable.
Yeah. So simple things like create different profiles or personas for people that live in the same house, right? So that. Sort of beyond that, and sort of looking forward now, for the rest of 2020. I mean, it's been quite a shocking first 6 months of the year. When we talk about sort of cyber security as a whole, within this industry and what impact COVID-19 has had, do you think that sort of moving away from small businesses do you feel that it's put a mass strain on cybersecurity functions or information security functions within large corporates, or do you think that that organizations are equipped to deal with this mass upscale of things that have happened? Where do you see the balance? Because there are truly negative things that are going on, but how has that affected cybersecurity?
I actually think I'm reluctant to use the word positive around COVID, because there's nothing positive about it whatsoever. But there has been the knock-on effect that COVID has almost forced organizations of all sizes to take cybersecurity a lot more seriously, to make sure that their employees are as secure as possible when working remotely. And I think that's only just going to grow as I say, as we're in it for the long haul. So I think it's brought it out more into the forefront. Small businesses and SMEs are now finally, after all these years, starting to take it a lot more seriously. I certainly remember back in 2009, hardly any small business, SME of any size, took it, that seriously. And there've been some huge strides, and the biggest strides I've seen have been this year, and that can only be a good thing. And as I say, I'm conscious I'm talking of that around the context of COVID, which isn't good. But it has had that effect.
Sorry to speak over you. My worry is that this is all a knee-jerk reaction, and when that level of normalization comes back in, then there's the next news cycle, there's the next crisis, there's the next issue, and then things go back to the way they were before. Do you think that's the route we're taking, or do you think that this is really a turning point in the way that people will start to take this discipline seriously, and also the impacts of it?
I hope, and I predict that it'll be the turning point of people taking it more seriously. That's certainly what I'm seeing at the moment. And it's something that I've been big on for years, that whole education piece, that awareness piece. But even, I think as well, getting the C-suite and the board on a level with cybersecurity and getting them to take it seriously, that's always been a big challenge as well. But if you can start with the board and cascade it down, that always works really well. And if you can get a board that adopts it earlier on and undertakes that strategy and understands its importance and the awareness, then you're halfway there. I've had so many conversations over the years with C-suite members where, we don't need to think about that. We don't need to take cybersecurity seriously. That's for IT. And it's been pushed, to IT more often than not. I'm slowly starting to see that that's not the case anymore. Cyber is starting to become a lot more of a board issue, which again can only be a good thing.
I think the challenge is, one of the challenges is having a educated board around cybersecurity, right? And also their willingness to take accountability and responsibility for it on behalf of, their investors, their shareholders, their stakeholders, and their employees. But also then distilling that down to the C-suite, which is also an additional challenge. So have you seen that? I mean, you mentioned you've seen a change in approach, but is there also an acceptance that this should just be normal? It shouldn't be exceptional in having that conversation, right? Yeah,
and again, it's come as a result of the coronavirus outbreak. As I said, I'm reluctant to use the word positive and so on around it, but from a cybersecurity perspective, I've seen some changes in the last few months that I would have never anticipated, and they're all changes for the good. They're not changes for bad. And I think that can only grow and develop as we go on, especially as so many organizations are looking to cut their office space down, or reduce it, or even in some cases get rid of their office space altogether. But if they do return to the office, there's an aspect you need to think about there. If you're reintroducing devices that have been on home networks, there needs to be a whole piece around data governance and reintroducing those devices and so on back into the office, if that is indeed the case.
And I, personally speaking, I don't think I'll feel very comfortable going into an office until some point next year, or up until the point a vaccine has been developed. So, I'm sure I'm not alone in thinking like that. So that just then adds additional challenges to organizations, which is going to be interesting to see how all of it plays out, to be fair. Is all of this guidance on your website, by the way, just so our viewers know? Yeah.
Absolutely, it is. It's on cybersecurityassociation.co.uk, and the National Cybersecurity Centre also has some fantastic guidance and information on there as well.
Perfect. So now looking towards the future with yourself, actually, I understand that you're soon to be an author, a published author.
Yes.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Cool. Can you tell us a little bit about your book and the stuff that you're doing?
Absolutely. So the book that I've compiled is called The Rise of the Cyber Women. And what I wanted to do was to give a platform to women in the industry, because aside from the work I've talked about with the Cybersecurity Association, I'm a huge advocate for women in cyber, also a huge advocate for the cyber skills gap. And I do a lot of awareness raising work around those two areas. And I realized that there was a lot of women out there in cyber like me that had a very sort of non-linear journey into the industry, or a bit of a non-traditional path. I mean, with myself, you couldn't get, much different to working with Chris Tarrant to working in cybersecurity. And those were the kind of stories I wanted to tell. And also have the book as as an inspirational guide for women, to encourage them to enter the industry, because being quite male dominated, I think that can be quite off-putting to a lot of women that are looking to enter it. So the book will be released mid-July, and I'm really looking forward to it coming out. I've got some fantastic contributors, and it's been great to give them a platform to share their stories.
Oh, that's amazing, and I wish you all the success with that. I think one of the things that you mentioned, which is really important, is about women entering into this discipline. There's a disproportionate number of men to women ratio in senior leadership roles and executive roles, and also in operational roles. What do you think it is that doesn't encourage or distracts? What is it that we need to be able to do to start attracting talent, or linear or non-linear? It doesn't really matter which way. What is it, and if I could put it in this way, what is it that us men need to do to better attract that talent into the industry?
For myself, I've actually had nothing but support from men in the industry. I've never had a problem with a single one. Ironically, where I have, I've had bullying, harassment and abuse from other women in the industry, which you might actually find quite surprising. So I think a lot of you guys are actually doing a great job, because you've been nothing but supportive to what I've been doing. But I think capturing their imagination about a career in cyber early on, perhaps in school and college, and going through the different options. So yes, there's the technical side, and that is, of course, extremely important. I would love to encourage as many women as possible to go into the technical side. But there's also, the awareness side, the work that I do, that didn't require so much of a technical background. So really getting them excited about that, about all the different options and the paths into the industry that women can take.
So one of the things I've noticed around a lot of the programs that exist for young women, or attracting young women in cyber, from the age of 8 to 14, is very focused around technical delivery. It's very focused around good coding practices, research. It is very technical. Do you think there needs to be a balance then between because it could be perceived as just another technology stream, which we all know that cyber is not just about technology. What do you think we need to do that's slightly different then to encourage the other spectrum of people to be involved? And just to add a slight caveat to that question as well, is that people learn in different ways, right? So I'm dyslexic. I have trouble reading, writing. I've got to check my work 10-15 times a day. It's an issue. And when you start talking about neurodiversity, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, people can act and react in different ways to information. What do you think we need to do to better improve the way that we're handling those types of things?
I mean, for me, it's just been getting that sort of understanding. I'm not very good with eye contact, so I have to work on that all the time. I'm not very good with sensory overload. So if I'm in an environment with lots of lights or lots of noise and so on, I have to find coping mechanisms for that. But I think just encouragement as well, that that they can enter it, that there is an industry for them. And one thing I noticed last year at InfoSec, and bearing in mind this is 2019, I attended last year, and the exhibitors quite a few of them, and this is 10 o'clock in the morning on the Wednesday of InfoSec, are handing out beers. And they're handing the beers specifically out to the men.
Yeah.
I walked past a lot of these booths, not once, not that I wanted a beer at 10 in the morning. The point is I wasn't offered one.
Yeah.
And that really stood out to me. And I wrote a blog post about it and called it beer bias.
Well, they shouldn't be there in the first place, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I've been to an InfoSec in probably about 3 years or whatever it is, 5 years. I find some of those environments rather toxic. They're not necessarily designed for learning. They're designed for social interaction, right? Which is, again, just my opinion.
It was my first time at InfoSec for a few years, and I thought, we're 2019. I can't believe this. This is going on.
One of the things I do like, and I'm sure you follow Jane Franklin as well.
Yes.
Big support of Jane.
And the code of conduct, of course.
Code of conduct, right? And I think that's absolutely. I suppose it's really good in one perspective, but it's really sad in another that we have to have it, right? And people just can't, behave themselves, which is also rather upsetting. But look, congratulations on your book published. When is it out again? Sorry,
it'll be out week commencing the 13th of July, so not long to go.
So we had a couple of questions. Let's have a quick look. So a LinkedIn user who doesn't want to be identified, has anonymized his name or her name, here to get an idea of what threat landscape that companies are facing at the moment. So what kind of threat landscape are companies facing? What's your take on that?
Certainly phishing and ransomware at the moment, huge, absolutely huge. And in fact, I've got a few stats around phishing attacks by sectors. So financial institutions are around 19.4% of phishing attacks. E-commerce retail 5%, telecoms 3%, payment gateways 19.8%, software as a service and webmail 30.8%. So it's a huge, huge problem. Again, as well, I think the insider threat is something to watch as well. So watching keep your employees and sort of teaching them about, there's been a high profile case recently where somebody maliciously deleted the entire contents of the organization's Dropbox data, the lot, and they've just been successfully prosecuted. So yeah, the insider threat is something to look at as well.
Do you think it's slightly more opportunistic because people's attention and focus are elsewhere? Yeah.
Quite possibly. In this particular case that I talked about, it was a malicious attempt. They tried to let her go from the company, and she deleted their entire their data ecosystem through Dropbox as a result, maliciously.
So I also understand that you've been nominated for another award.
Yes.
So tell me a bit about that.
Yes, so that's the Women in Tech Excellence Awards in their Positive Role Model and Woman of the Year categories. So nominated in that, and results come out in November. So.
Well, you seem to be trailblazing the industry. It's really good to see, and it's a really positive message that you're sending out to the cybersecurity community in all of some of the stuff that you're doing. It's really, really amazing. So, congratulations on all your success. It's great. So look, we're almost running out of time. Is there anything else that you would like to relay to small businesses about some of the work that you're doing, or other avenues where they can access information? And if they want to get in touch with you on social media, how would they go about doing that?
Sure. So if you do get any phishing email attempts or emails that you're not sure of, do forward them to the NCSC's phishing email center, because they are taking those to investigate at the moment. Or get in touch with Action Fraud or any one of those organizations. I can be found on Twitter as Cyber Geek Girl and UK CyberSec Association. and really enjoyed being on the show today.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on, and I hope we can circle back in a couple of months and see how you got along, and we can get some feedback on your book. And oh, by the way, where can we order your book from?
It'll be available on Amazon and Amazon Kindle. So I'll share the links with you when they come out.
Well, you've been an amazing guest. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everything there, and you know, to our LinkedIn community, thank you. Stay safe, everybody. If you're out and about, please stay safe, and you know, look after and respect each other. So cheers for that, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Cheers.